My name is Sam. I'm the marketing and communications manager here at Fairygodboss. And Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our mission is to improve the workplace by increasing transparency. We offer a ton of great free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, articles, virtual recruiting events, and so much more to help you succeed throughout your career. We will be taking questions at the end of today's webinar, and you can leave them in the Q&A as yourself or anonymously, so feel free to ask whatever comes to mind, and again, we'll be answering them at the end. We are also recording today's webinar, and we will be sending it out in a follow-up email, so if you miss anything or you want the chance to rewatch it, you will have the ability to do so. Here with me today is Jamia Williams. Jamia is the CEO and founder of District Valley Creative Consulting. Recognized as a millennial DEI leader, she has over 12 years of working within technology and 5+ years of experience focusing on diversity and inclusion initiatives. Jamia's strengths lie within creativity and innovation, and she believes the way to change the future is to be different from the past. From creating an online community for Black women that is 85K plus strong, to consulting with organizations to develop strategies for a culture of belonging, she brings her creative twist to learning and development. Thanks so much for being here today. Over to you.
I am so excited for being here. Like Samantha, this is great. Fairygodboss has been a partner of mine for quite some time. So I am excited that you all are here and that you're tuning in for wherever you are throughout the state. So welcome. And I'm so glad you're here. We have a jam-packed session today. It's going to be interactive. So please have like a notepad, a pen, however you take your notes, have all that stuff ready. But as again, my name is Jamia. I have another kind of quick short bio, but I kind of really want to hop into it because like I said, we have a lot to go through today. So first, this is what we're going to kind of chat through, how to approach entrepreneurship differently, how to use your current experience to grow your skill set, how to start small, how to hustle while working your 9-to-5, and then, how to use social media to expand your brand. So we have a lot that we're going to cover today. So I'm really excited for some of the things that we're going to talk about. And as Samantha mentioned, this is me. So, Jamia Williams. I think that the coolest thing I want to mention here is that my business, so District Valley Creative Consulting, started as a blog in 2018. And I've always loved writing, so I began blogging, so it really became natural to me. And I became a full-time entrepreneur in May of this year. So I'm brand spanking new to this entire world. But I didn't realize that I've been preparing myself for this moment all along. And when the pandemic hit, I lost my full-time opportunity. I was given another opportunity that I could have done, but I decided to bet on myself and take the just kind of package and go because I knew what I would have elected to do or step in to do would have put me way further back into my passion and what I really wanted to ultimately do, which is a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. But my blog, I openly had talked about it. I always shared articles on LinkedIn. A lot of my corporate partners knew about, my blog. And so the name District Valley was kind of a little bit household to me. So it really just made sense for me to transition from it just being a blog into being a business. So that's what really brought me to using District Valley as the name of my company. And I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. I actually recently just moved here in June. So a lot of transition, talk about a ton of transition within already in 2020 for me. My husband and I, we just celebrated our first year of marriage last Monday. I lost my job. He got a new job. We moved from Arlington, Virginia to South Carolina. So all within like the last probably like 5-6 months. So it's been a crazy whirlwind of just transition and change, but I wouldn't trade any of it just because although there's a lot of, just kind of a lot of things happening right now in the world, I've been able to find joy in the transition that I have been able to do. And I have lived in a ton of places. So if anyone's tuning in from Atlanta, I have lived there. I also lived in Arizona for quite some time. And then I also lived in North Carolina. So I am all around. I've hit east, west, south, and northeast. So a little bit about my company. So, my blog, as I mentioned, it converted into a consulting company. I just added the creative consulting to it. But I focus on these three areas. So D&I, diversity and inclusion. So going beyond numbers and data. I also focus in on social media and then also coaching, business coaching, entrepreneurship coaching, solopreneur coaching. For those that aren't familiar with that term, solopreneurs are those people who are a one-stop shop. You do everything throughout your business and it is just you. And so this is really what my consulting company, what my firm, what I focus in on today. So we'll hit all these areas as we're going through. So I'm just excited that you all are here today. So let's kind of get this started. I want to start with a really good quote. And this is a quote from Lisa Nichols. She is a CEO and with this company called Motivating the Masses. She sold 6 books, best-selling author of 6 books, motivational speaker, and really best known for her contribution to the law of attraction inside the book, The Secret. So if you read The Secret, then you kind of read the law of attraction, you have read some of Lisa Nichols' work. But this quote really, to me, fits the whole theme of why we're here today. If you have a dream and you have a job, that's amazing. You can learn how to navigate both. Your employer, or as I like to call it, your investor, gives you the money to invest in your dreams and pay your bills while you chase your dreams. And that's why we're here today. We're here to talk about, hey, how to look at entrepreneur differently, how to, work on your craft and your business while still working, how to find the time, how to start small, and how to grow your brand. And if you have the opportunity to have both, if you have the opportunity to work full time right now, or even have some sort of income while you're trying to start your business, you're in a really great starting point. Some people don't have both of them. So now I want to ask a question. So I just want to get the chat going really quickly. So I want you to type the number 1 if you already have a business idea, type the number 2 if you've begun, and type the number 3 if you have no idea about anything. So I'm gonna take a quick look at the chat. Okay, so we have some ones, and if more than one number applies to you, feel free. Okay. Slow roll, too many ideas. 1 and 3, I love that. Yes, you have an idea, but you have no idea what's happening. Okay, all right, good. So awesome, so you all are in the right spot. You're in the right spot. I am a little bit of a fast talker. So I'm from the DMV area, from, DC, Maryland, Virginia, from there, not quite the Northeast, but I'm a little bit of I live in the South and have lived in the South, but so I will try my best to kind of keep my pace where it is. But things like this get me so excited. It's my passion. You'll be able to feel it through the Zoom. And I'm just excited. We're getting ready to dive in. So let's look at this first kind of graph or chart. And I want you to kind of take yourself through. This is a self-check. And this is really to kind of say, hey, should I pursue my passion? If you were interested in being an entrepreneur, starting a business, more than likely you're starting something that you're passionate about. I don't really know too many people that it's like, I'm going to start a business, invest all this time and money into something that's not my passion. And so the main question you're going to ask yourself is it hard? And hard means so many different things: money, time, lack of resources, energy, lack of knowledge. So like, those are the things when when the question is it hard? Those are the things. So take a minute, take a couple seconds, take yourself through this journey. Is it hard? Yes or no. If it's no, okay, well, will it bring me, because some doesn't mean your passion, you could be really good at it, you just don't have the time to do it. So if it's no, then, the next part is, will it bring me closer to my dreams? If the answer is yes, then, hey, is it going to allow me to help myself and help others? Now, if that question is no, then, maybe, hey, maybe it's I probably shouldn't, but probably shouldn't doesn't mean don't do it. It could potentially mean maybe not right now, or maybe you need to do it a different way. Or is it hard? And the answer is yes. Is it worth the trouble? Maybe not. So let me think about it some more. Or maybe it is. Will it bring will it positively impact my life? Yes. So then do it. This is just a quick little hey, should I even jump in and do some of these things that I'm really thinking about? So I just wanted to kind of get your minds thinking about pursuing your passion and overcoming that hurdle, because at some part in your journey, it's going to become hard. It may not be hard in the beginning. and you may think like, oh, I've got this going, all the ideas are rolling, like people are, investing in me. I'm just getting resources. I got my first client. I didn't have to try. But then you'll hit that roadblock. And then that's when it's like, okay, can I keep going? And so I just want you all to kind of start thinking about like, hey, you're going to have to be malleable in this. You're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to be able to pivot to the left and to the right. But really the ultimate goal is, if you can consistently answer yes to, should I pursue my passion, then you need to kind of keep going forward. And I want to share this with you right here. Hopefully you all can see it. But this is from some small women in business, small business trends of 2020. So far, I'm not going to look through all of this. This is a quick snapshot. This is probably the only data corporate kind of thing I'm going to share with you during this time. But I wanted to call your attention to a couple of different things. Motivation for opening a business. People are ready to be their own boss. That's like the number one, 31%. They want to pursue their passion, 26%. Dissatisfied with corporate, America. Opportunity presented itself, laid off. Some people aren't ready to retire, and then a life event. I can definitely say those first, with that 5, all apply to me. I was ready to be my own boss. I wanted to pursue my passion. I was over corporate America, and I was laid off. And the opportunity presented itself. I set myself up and didn't even know I set myself up. But look at this, the most popular financing methods. Cash is number one. Some people think that if you're gonna start a business, you have to like have all this capital, or you need all these investors, you need all these different things, or that's how people are starting them. But really the majority of people, and as you can see, women are actually starting this method through cash, through their own cash. And then if you look three kind of notches down, then you see family and friends is a really big one. So industry. So if you look at, the different industries, so top, I think it's up here. Yep, here it is at the bottom. So retail is number one, health and beauty, fitness, number 2, business services, coaching, consulting, kind of similar to what I'm doing here. Number 3, food and restaurant, and then residential, commercial services, real estate, things like that. Those are the top 5 small businesses that women are going into. And then age, that one's a little bit small. You may not be able to see it as clearly, but 50% of women getting into business are in the Gen X, which is no surprise, 0.0000 surprise right now, because that's that age, or that generation that has been right in the workforce and trying to say, I'm like, hey, I'm over, I'm over all of this. Life is happening. I'm advancing. And then you have them not too far behind as the millennials coming in at 36%. I am considered a millennial, so I'm in that bucket. 13% boomers, and then 1% of the silent generation. So I just wanted to show this really quickly to kind of show you kind of how you can get your brain just kind of thinking of just different ways and what it means to starting a business, and really kind of taking a grasp like, hey, people are doing this. If you can see, 26% of people have a high school education and they're making business. It's the second highest behind someone with a bachelor's degree. So you don't have all the tools, or you need to have all these just grand scheme of things to make your business go. You should kind of get those kind of methods and myths maybe out of your mind for a little bit. This is really about looking at entrepreneurship different. So you want to step on your own. So how do you do that? Just take the leap, jump out there. But if you're working full time, that can look a little bit different. So I want to kind of get us into some practical, just kind of journaling, jotting down here. So grab a notebook, a pen, a sheet of paper, sticky note, however, and I want to talk through some of these questions right here. So I want to take a couple minutes here. So I want you to think about 3 tasks and assignments that you do currently at work. And if you're not working, maybe you were laid off or you're in between, think about your last position, because that's your most relevant experience. Write down 3 things that you really enjoyed with your last position. And then I'm going to talk through this. So as writing, you'll kind of hear me talk through this. And then I want you to kind of reflect on how often you got to do those tasks. How did it make you feel when you did those tasks? If you could do those tasks differently, how would you and why? Like, why would you want to do those tasks? My curl hair is acting out of pocket. There we go. And then if you could do these tasks differently, talk about why, but then could any of these tasks support or benefit the company, your passion, and what you're trying to build? So think about that for a couple of minutes. Think about if you were someone who is let's say you're an accountant, storing a profession out there, and you want to become a chef. You want to become a chef. That is your passion. You love cooking, and that's where it is, today. So you're thinking, how do these tasks even align with each other? How can I even get those going? Well, as an accountant, I'm sure you have clients or customers who are seeking your services or your company services, right, to help them start their business, or how to help them figure out how to, move from point A to point B, how to invest money, how to raise money. Well, those are skill sets that you can write down that you can use to create and to start your own business. Or maybe you're a teacher and you want to become a yoga instructor. Maybe it's something along those lines where you're thinking like, hey, how does me teaching, how is the task or the things that I'm doing going to help me start my yoga practice? Well, depending on what type of teacher you are, and depending on the type of student you have, maybe you've had to interact with parents. Maybe you've had to deal with challenging students. Maybe the type of professions or studies you teach can help you when it comes to building a clientele, a consumer base, building the connection between the people that you're trying to build and to bring into your yoga practice. So thinking about, what you're currently doing right now and how you're going to connect it to what you're going to do in the future or currently doing is so imperative. That's how you build your skill set. There's a lot of people, a lot of the coachees that I have when I do business coaching is they're like, well, hey, I don't know how to connect. I have no experience. I have no experience of what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to create, credibility. And the thing that I do, and I say, okay, let's look at what you last did. Let's kind of map out some of the things that you really enjoyed, and how can we duplicate those things? Now you may do them differently, but how can we duplicate those concepts into something that will make grow your business, market your business, make your business run efficiently, help you attract people to your business, help you gain maybe employees to your business, help you gain customers. So there's always a correlation. You just have to dig a little bit deeper into that. So hopefully you jotted down, at least if you didn't answer all the questions, you've jotted down the questions, because we're going to kind of reference some of these as we move forward. So then I want you to answer, ask yourself and answer this question. How do you make the things you don't like doing better? So there's lots of things. One of the things, that people, want to do, step out onto their own is they just don't like, hey, how they have to do the certain processes, how tasks are done. They don't like the work environment. They don't like, there's different things like, how can you make those things better? How can you turn the things you're just like, oh, I'll do it, but, I really don't want to do it. How can you turn those things into good? Because when you run your own business, a lot of those things you're still going to have to do, but you'll do them differently. You'll do them your way. You'll have your spin on it. But the time to figure it out and the time to try, the time to brainstorm is why you have the opportunity in front of you right now, which is why you're working full time. That is how you'll kind of figure out how you can do things differently and how you can create those different things. So here's some ways to kind of get you thinking about, finding the good in them. It's kind of how I like to say it. So diligent research. So why does the company train or do things that way? It's obviously, potentially, I'm not going to assume, but it's obviously creating the company a profit or returning something or attracting individuals to the company. So understanding why the company does the things the way they do. Creative campaigns. How can you reach a different audience or a different voice? How can you do that using the same campaign, but putting your own spin on it? Adding a unique concept to something that the company is already doing, which can yield you different results. So you're like, you know what? I like the fact that they do this, but if I did it this way, I bet you I could potentially get this type of clientele or this customer. Or if I flipped it a little bit this way, this would help me propel my business or my ideas to like the next level. So it's looking in the inner workings of your current company, your current job, your current role, things like that. And then also thinking about, when was the last time, a process was redesigned, something was changed, something was updated, something was enhanced. An example for that for myself is with my previous company. They had not redesigned the job description for the entry level position that they had. There was a challenge with the company attracting women, with people of color, which is a challenge, and they invested some money in updating the website and maybe creating some like YouTube related videos for certain things, but there wasn't an investment in updating kind of like the number one thing that job seekers look at, which is the actual job description. And so I took it upon myself. At the time I was in talent acquisition. Actually, no, I think I was in D&I already, but I always had a dotted line to talent acquisition. But I was like, you know what, I could do this. I'm trying to help increase representation within the company, so let me do this. And now I added another skill set to my resume while I was already working, was just basically redeveloping, revamping, overhauling a process that hadn't been touched in years. So now it's something that I can do. It's something that now that I can offer to a client, and something that I can offer to someone else who is seeking some type of revamping, some type of revising, because I've done it. And I think sometimes we forget that some of the smaller tasks that we do, they may only take us a week. That one project may have only taught you a week, but that is things that people will pay big money, big dollars and cents for, because one, they don't have the time, the energy, the resources, they don't know where to start. But when you've actually done it and you have the backing of a company, they're supporting you throughout the way, then you can use that skill set somewhere else. And then direct business impact. Hey, how can this new redesigned process, how can this different way we're doing these campaigns, how can my research, how can I change the way we're doing or training or inviting or connecting with customers, how can this increase the reach of the business? So these are all things of trying to find the good in some of those tasks that either the processes are just so old and worn out, or just kind of figure out how you can do something different. This is how you now begin to develop and increase your skill set. So now I want to talk about how I did this to kind of put a little bit of color to it. So this is what I was doing full time. And I added, this is what I was doing kind of collectively a little bit within like the last, I would say, 4 years of my time at my previous employer. If you've been at your current company for X amount of time, I was there for 7.5 years before I was laid off. And when it came for me to look at my passions, what I enjoyed the most, I looked at everything and every job, every position I had at that previous company. So I looked at those things. And so I worked in D&I. I did training and workshops, so diversity trainings. I participated with new hire training. I developed workshops. I went to goodness, what are they called? Because we can't go to them anymore. Conferences. I went to conferences to teach back, and different things like that. I also did social media for the company. So I ran our careers Instagram page, dabbled a little bit in the Twitter page as well. I helped build community. So I was a spearhead for employee resource groups. I started the first Black woman virtual network at the company, and I was always involved in supporting women. Any women's initiative that happened at that organization, I was there. I was helping it out. I was investing in a lot of that. So those are the things I was doing full time. So when I was thinking about my entrepreneurship plan, and again, I was thinking about planning this out as I was still working full time. But now stepping into it, I actually did an evaluation. I went back and I was like, I wonder how this correlates. Like, am I actually doing something that I was doing in my previous job? And I was. And so this is kind of how it correlates. So now I consult. So I have my own consulting firm. So I contract out to actually a Black woman and woman-owned DEI firm out of Chicago. So I consult with them. They hire me on to help them with projects, within DEI, since I have the experience with my previous company. And a good story here is that firm was actually a corporate partner of my previous employer. And we had hired them to help us with some training and some development. They really make snackable size kind of cartoon videos with discussion questions. And we were actually, my previous company was actually my new company, their first company or corporate client. So it's like a full circle for me, but I consult with a firm now, still working within DEI from an existing relationship. They found me on LinkedIn. They literally, one of the founders responded, saw that my former boss commented on my farewell post I put on LinkedIn, and she reached out to him and said, hey, we're trying to hire consultants. I see Jamia is no longer with the company. Can you connect me to her? And 30 days, literally to the day, I was, beginning my, consulting journey with another company. And so now I get to develop my own learning and development. This company hires me to not fit into a box of what, I had to fit in beforehand. So now the out of the box training, the diversity training, the inclusion training, the workshops that I'm creating is really from my lens. And I'm using a lot of the framework that I had in my previous employer, because the concepts stay the same. It's how you deliver it. It's how you put your spin on it. It's how you explain it. The concepts are the same, but it's just different how you do it. So I do that. So now I develop my own learning and development. And since, as I mentioned, I ran the Instagram for the company, I was like, okay, well, hey, I have experience figuring this out. Why don't I do the same thing for myself? Social media is such a huge, open, free pool of people that you can market to, that you can advertise to, that you can connect with. And why don't I do the same thing? My passion, being a Black woman, has always been the Black woman. And so I created a social media community that now has passed 90,000 followers. And I started that in March of 2019. So not even 2 years ago. And while I was working full time, because I knew I did it at the company. And so I was like, I can do this on my own too, as well. And from there, my next phase is I was a writer, as you remember, blogging. So something that I started blogging with. I now opened an online publication. I have 13 independent writers who write for my publication, which is a supplement to the Instagram profile. And because of that, because I have the following, because I have the eyes, the viewers, I have the people that are there, these new writers, these independent writers want to get their words out, want to get their experience out. So they're like, I'll write for your platform because I know people are going to read it. So all these things kind of connect the dots, but I got the tools on how to figure out how to run social media from my previous employer because I ran it there, and I just raised my hand. I had no experience. I used Instagram for my own personal gain, but I never used it to market or to talk about it. And so I figured it out on somebody else's dime. And then I took those tools to figure it out on my own. And like I said before, I had always supported women. Women supporting women is like one of my number one focuses, but especially Black women. And so I made a connection to keep what I had going on with that employee resource group I had for Black women. I wanted to make sure I still had that, no longer being tied to corporate America. So I wanted to make sure I do that. And I do that. I do that through my Instagram profile. I do that through my online website. Everything is catered to the Black woman. And it's a place where I have Black male and women writers writing about experiences, sharing their expertise, sharing different things that really kind of tie back into the community that I experience every single day. So you see how how entrepreneurship and full-time can kind of almost, the things that you're doing or have done can really just kind of flip over into just things that you're passionate about. It really can flip over into it. So I've said a lot. So you're thinking like, okay, am I stuck? Am I still stuck? So if you are still stuck and if you're having a hard time with connecting the dots, I want you to kind of do this if you can locate your job description. This is probably one of the best things that someone told me years ago that I use every single time now when I'm doing coaching. You can locate your job description. And if you can't, go on CareerBuilder or Monster or somewhere else, the Fairygodboss, job board, and find something that's very similar to what you're currently doing. Print it out. And yes, I mean print. There's something about paper and pen that just elevates things. So print it out if that's possible. And then highlight the duties you enjoy doing the most and cross out the ones you enjoy, like you don't like at all, or you enjoy the least. And don't forget those tasks that were not included in your job description that you now do, both positive and negative, because we all have those. We all have those. And start there. That's where you start to say, hey, can I use the highlighted duties in my business? How can I capitalize on these highlighted duties while I'm still working right now, so I can become better at these duties? So then when it comes time to open up my shop and my business, I'm good to go here because I figured this out. That's how you start to think about some of those things. I'm gonna take a quick pause and see if there's anything in here. And I see a question in here, and I think I'm gonna get to this, the time. I see a question in here from someone about time, and that is coming up. So I just wanna make sure that we're there. It's actually my next slide. So the other thing I want you to think about right now is, some people are like, well, kind of what I'm doing, I can't really find any correlation. I can't find anything. And so this is where you'll have to tap into the relationship that you have at work, and think about the current people, your champions, your advocates, people who you may send a text message or talk to on the weekends, or maybe occasionally had hung out with on the weekends. Start tapping into them. Start just asking them just kind of small questions, or bouncing your ideas off of them. Figure out who's in their network. We're in a virtual space right now to where conferences and networking is at your fingertips. And although Zoom exhaustion is real, it is real life. Take advantage of a lot of these conferences that used to be, hundreds and thousands of dollars, that are now free, or a fraction of the cost. There was a conference that I attended that was $100, $99, that essentially used to be $4.99 in person. And I took advantage of it this year, because I was like, I've always wanted to go. I don't have to pay for travel. I don't have to pay for airfare. I don't have to pay for any hotels, no food, none of that stuff. I can sit right at home for $100 and I can tune in to some of these things. And at one of these conferences, I was in the chat, very similar here, and I was sharing my story. I had just got laid off, and I was just like ranting. And from there, I had connected with some women who found me on LinkedIn. We started sending messages, and lo and behold, one of them is actually going to end up doing some writing for me. And I had no idea about this person prior to. And so it's thinking outside of the box that really is going to help you really get out of this rut and out of this stuckness. Just wanted to make sure I kind of just chatted about that. Okay. So type 1 in the chat if you relate to this statement. You're following, but you're busy. How do you find the time? Type 1 if you relate to this. Yep, so here we go. We got some ones. So that's the biggest thing, is time. And where do you find the time to do this? So a little context. So I worked for a company where it was FaceTime was number one. I could have been sitting at my desk and maybe just typing and not really doing work. But the fact that I was at my desk super early in the morning and staying late at night, that was like valued at number one within one of the roles that I had. And so I spent a lot of my time basically on at work. I worked for a company that we were really early risers. So 7 o'clock, we were at the office. I know when I first started at the company years ago, there was times I was at the office at 6:50 in the morning. It was sales based. So you get in what you put out. And so I was there super early in the morning, and so I had a lot of times I was there late at night. So my time was really limited. And then when I moved into a more flexible work schedule within my last probably 4 years at the company, I could work from home when I wanted. I could do all these different things, but now I had to travel. I had like 40-50% of travel. So now I'm getting up early to go to flights, and I'm landing, and I'm staying in hotels. I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. I'm running left and right. I just didn't have my time. And it was just hard for me to find the time, but I found the time because I realized I hit a point where my passion was just as much or just as important to me as my time. And that's kind of the correlation that you have to make here. So there's another quote here, and this is from a woman named Candace Matthews Bracken, and she's a founder of this accelerator program out of the Midwest, which helps Black tech startups. And so this is her quote. Many of us stay up till 2 a.m. watching stuff on Netflix. But you get off work at 6, obviously give or take, for some. So what could you do from 6 to 2 a.m. that can prove that this company is worth it? Now, I'm not saying get up at, stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not saying, you have to work from 6 to 2 o'clock. This is just kind of analogy to start thinking that we spend our time doing things that we could exchange out for, So instead of watching 3 episodes on Netflix, maybe you just watch one of something. So it's like thinking about, the time that you currently have and how you can utilize that time a little bit differently, because we love to say we don't have the time. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, but you do have the time, but you have to find it. And like, that's kind of where it is. Like, you have to find the time and you have to be strategic about finding the time. So I like to explain it in like these 3 ways: is off hours, in between, and trade in. That's how I like to explain finding 3 ways to find time. So off hours are before work, lunch breaks, while the kids are asleep, if you have a family, while your roommates are out of the house, after work, late night, weekends. Those are considered like off hours. So if you're someone that gets up really early in the morning because the house is quiet, everybody's asleep, and that's like your me time, maybe think about using some of that time. But maybe you get up at 6 o'clock because you'd like to work out at 6:30. You're like, okay, I get up super early, so I want to work out at 6:30. So instead of maybe getting up at 6 o'clock, maybe you get up at 5:30. And then maybe you do your workout, and then that extra 30 minutes you have is time for you to actually work. And if you're not familiar with the Pomodoro method, and I may be saying it wrong, but you can Google it, and it's POMDERO or something along those lines. But it's like work 25 minutes, break for 5. And it's working 25 minutes with like 0 distraction. And there's actually like an app, because I have an app actually on my MacBook, and it's a timer, and it'll like beep at me when my 25 minutes is done. And there's been times where I've been working for those 25 minutes, and I'm like, damn, like I still have time left. And I get so much done because I've shut off all distractions, notifications, my cell phone's in my drawer on my desk, everything's turned off, and I'm just lasered in. So you can spend 30 minutes of good time and actually get something done. So think about like off hours. In between, I love this. So if you got to work early, if you're someone that's going into the office, or if you're someone that's at home and you're like, you've got to your desk, into your office, early, think about spending those 30 minutes jotting things down. I keep my creative notebook with me wherever I am, and it's always open to like an empty page or the last page, because if I have time to think about something, I want it to be accessible. And like I said earlier, it's nothing like pen and paper, writing it down. So instead of chatting, water cooler chat, coffee chat, maybe spend 30 minutes and write something down. That's going to help you, or write down some ideas that you're going to have. If you're in between meetings, especially if you're virtual, you're at home, nobody knows what you're doing. Like, I'm not saying spend all your time, all your work time, doing things for your personal business. I'm not saying that at all. But if the meeting ended 15 minutes early, and you've already done your bio break, you've refilled your water, refilled your coffee, and you've ate your lunch, you've taken care of self first. If you've already taken care of self first, spend those 15 minutes doing something for your business. Maybe there was something that you saw that you wanted to bookmark to rewatch later. Or maybe you're like, what, today's my day. I'm going to watch tutorials on something on YouTube. So spend those 15 minutes, because YouTube, you can find anything on YouTube, literally anything. My husband watches it to figure out the garden in the back. So you can find anything you want on YouTube. So maybe you spend those 15 minutes researching YouTube videos to bookmark for later, or researching articles for you to read for later. Because then now when it's time for you to work, during those times, you're not searching online looking for these articles. You've already made a list of them. You're already ready to go. And then trade in. This is the biggest one for some people, because sometimes you're trading in a passion for passion. So maybe your passion's working out. And so maybe one of these days you work out, you switch your workout for working on your business. Or instead of taking that run outside, instead of listening to your favorite CD or your workout tunes, maybe you're listening to a podcast while you're taking a walk that's going to help you or motivate you into figuring it out. because starting a business is not just about getting in there and just typing away or doing anything. Like, it takes a lot of research and a lot of time, a lot of investing, a lot of setup. And a lot of that comes, it requires quiet time. It requires time with yourself. It requires you writing things down. And I think that is the hardest place to find to find time, is that kind of research quiet, because it's the time where you're not on the phone. You're not maybe actively typing on the computer. So if you have people in the home and they distractions and they're peeking around the corner, oh, mom's not on Zoom, my spouse isn't, they're not typing away, they're just reading a book or they're just reading an article, I can come and bother them. That's where the time starts to kind of slip away. So like, that's where you need to kind of like figure out where you can kind of trade in time. And then here are some ways you can start small. This goes right into like the time. So once you find your time, then you want to start out small. So like, make a schedule and stick to it. Like, I mean, write it down, like write down your schedule and let your family, let the house know, let your household know what your schedule is going to be at. Okay, so I know I was going to cook dinner tonight, but I actually need that 45 minutes to really work on something. I found an article I really need to read. I need to focus in on that. And what I also love to do, back to my notebook, when I read articles and I find stuff, I write it in my notebook. I write quotes, I write the names, I write the articles, I write it in my notebook, because this is like my creative journal. And if I ever need to reference something, I know I'm going to find it like right in here. So like, make a schedule and stick to it, and have your friends and family be accountability partners. I know one thing that everybody loves to have accountability partners for fitness. Everyone loves to have a fitness accountability partner. Oh, did you work out today? 3 stars for you. Oh, what workout are you going to do today? Like, we love to have group chats and group me's and WhatsApps for fitness. But what happened? Like, why don't we have those for small businesses, for entrepreneurs, for solopreneurs? Where are your friends or your networks or your former colleagues or your individuals who are in the same mindset as you? And if you don't have them, find them. And you can find them in Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, meetups. Like, you can find some of these individuals and spend, a couple of minutes of just checking in or sharing your goals with them, so then they can share them back. And then there's also, even if you don't want to find people, I'm a Capricorn, I don't really like people as much sometimes. So, there's automation for that. There's apps that you can put on your phone that remind you to do certain things, that ask you to check in, that ask you to do those certain things. So you need to do those things, because you need to check in with yourself, check in with what you're working on. If you've been researching for a month and haven't done anything, think about actually like, okay, well, why haven't I done anything for this amount of time? I need to kind of figure out what's going on. And then work on one goal and one task at a time. I switch on my AirPods because one of them is getting ready to die. Don't work on one thing at a time. I think some people love to work on everything at the same exact time, or work on so many different things at the same exact time. And you need to just work on one thing at a time, and don't pick the hardest thing. And what I mean the hardest thing, people like to say, oh, I got to grow my brand. I got to grow my following. I got to get this up. I got to figure out this marketing plan. Well, that's the end result. That's the end result. That's the hard part, is the end result. You need to, there's so many steps before you figure out growing your brand or figuring out all that different stuff. That's where you should be focusing in on. How to utilize social media, how to utilize, professional and virtual networking, how to utilize or how to maximize your time within some of these virtual conferences. Like, that's what you really need to kind of focus in on. And so, how do I get my business out there? For those that are struggling with the marketing, advertising, social media, type in the comments. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you have with that? I'm curious to hear from a few of you. Okay, a little quiet out there. Or maybe we're chatting, or maybe we're typing. Roadmap. Takes time to launch a new social channel. It does. Confidence. Yes. So it's one post, one tweet, one email, one thread, one text. I should put one call, or FaceTime or Zoom. I should also put those up there, but that's really how you start. I think people think about their business as like I got to have it all together before I can even say anything about it. And I think the answer to that is no. I think that was one of my failures in the beginning when I started my social media kind of journey of building this community on Instagram. I didn't tell any of my friends until I had like 60,000 followers. And they were like, why did you do that? Like, that makes no sense. Like, why didn't you tell us when you first started it? We would have been supporting you from day one. And it was like that inner critic. It was that confidence person. So it's like, you got to start with one thing at a time and just keep going and just keep going. And so this is what I say. So start with, your current, partnership. So at work, if you have current people that you work with that are like professional organizations that you work with, maybe you're the person who helps connect with the external partnerships. Maybe you're the person that works with the conferences, or maybe you're the person, maybe you're the admin and you're the one, you're the gatekeeper for all the external clients that are coming in. Start there. And I don't mean like you're blanket calling them. Like, everybody asks this question: hey, how was your weekend? Everybody always starts with that. And so you can say, oh my gosh, it was so good. I wrote my first 2 chapters of my book. What did you do? And I guarantee that person's going to say, oh, you're writing a book? Oh, that's so cool. Or, hey, you know what? I worked on my first 2 recipes for my new cookbook. Or I'm trying out this, or, I learned a new yoga stance, or I did this. And you're not directly selling. You're just talking about what you're doing. And it's a different way to get your business out there. It's just one thing at a time. If you consistently talk about what you're doing, your passion, your hobbies, if you consistently talk about it, and even connecting it back to what you're doing at work, it's going to be a seamless transition for yourself. Connect with similar driven people on LinkedIn. I am a huge proponent of, I've probably had 5 random Zooms with women. I have no idea who they are since I've gotten laid off, through LinkedIn connections, through me responding to someone's status and the person sending me an email, or through someone connecting, us together because they saw something that I posted on LinkedIn that the other person resonated with. And I've connected with people randomly, following thought leaders within your industry, following those individuals. And Twitter can be your best friend. I love Twitter. I think it's even in one of my bios. I love a good Twitter thread. I think I can find and get inspiration, even ideas, business ideas on Twitter. It's my social media avenue of choice over everything else. Granted, I have way more following on Instagram, so it's kind of interesting how that works. But you get so much inspiration, and you find out so many things on Twitter. I have attended so many free webinars on specific topics within DEI, within social media, within coaching, within just starting a business, just looking on different Twitter threads or reading people's, comments to, hey, give me a tip on such and such. And I'm reading those threads. I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. Like, that's actually a really good way to think about business. And I found this quote from the gentleman named Jack Butcher, and you can look at him on Twitter. He created this business called Visualize. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he said this in his webinar, and I have my book open because I took my notes on the webinar. And he said, talk about your business as if you already made it. Like, that's kind of like, and I was like, that is really where I fell short in the beginning, is not talking about my business as if I've already made it. And then for some people, for those that want to actually create things tangible to like sell, or, thinking about that, he also meant, creating content that sells more product. People sometimes fail to remember that your journey is also a product, because everyone's trying to figure out how to start. Everybody's trying to figure out how to start. How did you start that practice? How did you start this? How did you figure this out? People are always trying to figure that piece out. That is a business in itself. When I started my social media journey and I figured out, hey, I know how this is doing, I wrote an ebook and I sold it for $5 on Etsy. It's still there to this day. That was a passive income stream that I had. When I first did it, I made like $300 off of a book. Yeah, it took me a few months to do it, but I wasn't in a rush. Every so often, and I figured something out, I added to it, and I just did it, and I put it out there on Etsy. And I tell you, Etsy is an amazing place for digital products, for very low cost digital products. Etsy is a game changer. One of my girlfriends sold a $25 cookbook on Etsy and made like $12,000. No lie. I'm not going to lie. because her cookbook was so good, her marketing on hers, because she had a following, her marketing was so good on there, and her design, her aesthetics, it was amazing. And people just kept referring. It was low cost, had a lot of things in there that was easy to make. It had, household things. And she's not a chef. She's not a chef. She's way far from a chef. But that's just what she did. And she's like a serial entrepreneur, a serial hustler. And she's like, people ask me all the time on my social media, what am I making? So this is what people are telling me. So maybe I need to, maximize on this. It's a way that she, made some money over a period of time. It wasn't when she just released it, she made that amount of money, but over a period of time, she made that amount of selling a cookbook. So these are the recommended platforms that I think when you're trying to build your brand, these are the things that I think you should, consider. So at least one social profile. Social media is how consumers connect with businesses. I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to find something new, I'm hitting the social media first. I'm checking their Instagram page. I'm checking, I'm on Yelp. I'm on Twitter. I'm looking to see what is happening with this specific company or specific business. So I say that at least one, preferably two. So you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have Twitter, you have LinkedIn is not considered social profile. Granted, they're having all these now stories and all this stuff now on LinkedIn. I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet, but yeah. So I also recommend YouTube, TikTok, all these different things. I also recommend if you have a brand, a name, a phrase, even if you don't use the socials, I recommend you just grabbing them all. So my Instagram community I created is called Black Wife Life. It's very catchy. It's very trendy. And so when it started blowing up, I said, I need to grab that handle everywhere because I don't need someone else to grab it and then be able to use what I've built to, kind of further their platform. So just grab it. I have that on every single platform, but I don't use it everywhere, but I own it. So LinkedIn, your profile, so who you are as a person, but then also creating a company page. So if you go on my LinkedIn, I also have District Valley Creative Consulting, and it's an actual company page. Now it's not fully built out yet, so I do have my own to-dos to do, but at least I have it there. And so it's not just in my job, like in my job description portion of LinkedIn, like you can actually click out and go to a company page. Email list. Social media is hot, but an email is 40 times more likely to get you a sale. So if you have not begun to collect emails, start with your friends, start with your family. Like if you not begin to collect emails, like you need to begin to collect an email list. There's so many free platforms out there for you to create an email list and for you to do an email list. Creating newsletters, like this is the number one place businesses and companies get a lot of their business. Referral business, it's a lot easier to forward an email than it is to forward a website, forward a post. So much easier. So make sure that you invest in that, do that. I use Substack for an email list that I've actually transitioned my blog into a newsletter. And I actually prefer that much more than typing on a static website. And then website with matching email. Please, let's ditch the @gmail.com. Like if you're really investing in this, please buy your website and buy the matching domain. There's so many websites, .com places you can buy websites and even get a free starter page for a year. I personally invest in G Suite over any of the other email platforms. I had Outlook for a minute and I just didn't like some of the functionalities. And so I used Gmail for that piece. And I think that is it. Yes, that is it. So we have a few minutes here and I see there's some questions. I know I was kind of probably going at a speed of light here, but I had a lot of content to share and I wanted to make sure I got through it all. And so I will use the last 5 minutes for questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jamia. This was a really helpful presentation. I think I speak for everybody when we're really excited. I've had so many people say they're just like so pumped to take the leap. So thank you so much. We only have 5 minutes, but let's jump right in. I saw 2 questions come through, so I want to get to both of them. Rachel made a really interesting question that I think a lot of people are probably having. I feel like I need to work on nailing down my target audience. Right now, I create content that has a mass appeal and it's working, but I believe it will hit a wall if I don't narrow down too quickly. Do you have any thoughts and advice here?
Yes. So when you're creating that content, look at the people that are responding and interacting with that content. And that is your audience base. Now, a lot of people are going to interact with it, but there's going to be a consistent person, and there's different interactions. So depending on where you are sharing or posting or this stuff lives, look at the people that are like verbally, like maybe writing comments, responding to emails, sharing your content, whether it's on social media. Like, look at those individual people and see if you can do research on those people. Those are the ones who you need to market to, because a lot of people, their brand, their content, what they're doing can fit the masses. But once you start to drill down a little bit more, that's really where the magic happens. And that's where the following and the support and the business actually comes. But you're only going to find your own following or your own specific market by actually analyzing the people that are working with you. And even like putting stuff in like Google Trends, if you're using, some type of platform website to put certain things out there, everybody gives analytics on the demographic, the age, the area that you're in. Like, everybody has these platforms or these metrics if you're using some type of technology to push your content out.
Awesome. We have an anonymous attendee who asked something interesting as well. They were recently let go from a hostile environment, and they always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but they thought that the full-time job and the hours there was the only thing holding them back. Now that they have all the time, they're actually struggling to meet their own deadlines. Do you have any suggestions for setting those deadlines and then meeting them when the only person holding you to them is yourself?
Yes. And can you still hear me? Because my headphones died. Okay. So schedule them. Hold on. Let me put these in here so it doesn't come back on.
Oh, you're a little quiet now. Can you get closer to your microphone? Yeah, now you went out for some reason. That was very strange. There you are. I hear you again.
Back?
Yeah.
Okay. Schedule. I'm a multitasker. I do this all the time on Zooms. Schedule time while you're in your calendar. Like, when I mean schedule time, I mean schedule time as if like you are have a meeting, and inside that calendar invite, write your to-dos, what's inside of there. And then take it a step further with like scheduling your follow-ups. Like, I use my calendar as if I was still working full time. So I schedule research, I schedule responding to emails, I schedule, I even schedule my me time, my own lunch. I block my calendar off. Because one thing, since I'm a solopreneur, I use automated scheduling tools, so like Calendly. And so if my calendar is open, people will schedule all over it. But I need time for research. I need time to do certain things. So I block all that stuff out on my calendar. So when someone goes to my scheduling tool, they will know that Jamia's not free, but only these couple of days on this day or these couple of hours. So this is when I'm going to actually do it. Because if I don't do that, people will then flood my calendar. And then I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to do it at all. So you have to be diligent. And I also write it in 2 different places. So I like to write down actually to-dos like in my notebook, because it holds me accountable for what I need to do for like that day and that week. And then I also like to put it in my calendar.
Jamia also mentioned earlier getting with other people who are also entrepreneurs or just friends who want to support you and having them hold you accountable. So if you can't keep yourself to the deadline, you can have somebody else who's politely checking in on you, yes. And they have your best interests in mind, but they're making sure that you're being held as well. So I thought that was great advice that you brought up too.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we're right about at time. So I want to say thank you again so much to everybody who joined us today. And thank you to Jamia for this wonderful presentation. I think we all learned a lot.
I'm so excited. Can't wait to do it again.
Alrighty, everybody. We'll send out the recording later today, as well as Jamia's contact info, and we'll catch you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.